Hello, can anybody hear me? Say something in the chat if you can hear me. Hello. Testing, 1, 2, 3. Can you hear me? Can you hear me well, or can you just barely hear me? All right. Let's see, let's put this over here. Great, you can see me, you can hear me. Here we are. Thank you very much for being here. This is my first live stream. So we'll see how this goes, and if it goes well, maybe we'll do more in the future. Thank you very much. This is Raymond Castile's Basement of Horror. Welcome. So, I can see your comments. All right. This is going to be a chat, but let's just, to warm up, let's do a little, show and tell. Let's see here. Here's some goofy vintage things. These are from the 70s. These are Knickerbocker plush monster dolls. Knickerbocker hairy scaries. So they're rag dolls, but they have hair on their heads. This is the gimmick. They have this little bit of hair. And they made a Dracula, a Frankenstein, a Planet of the Apes, and a werewolf. So this Dracula is Count Drooly. And if this were a proper episode where I'd research and prepare, but this is just a little show and tell to warm up here. It's Count Drooly. He's a stuffed Dracula from the 70s. He kind of, that head, that face looks like, I don't know, it looks like a modern kind of caricature. I'm not sure what illustrator that reminds me of. Here's Frankenstein, whose name is Frankie Baby. There's Frankie Baby. Now he's a very rough box. And one of these days, I guess I'll get the Wolf Man and the ape. The ape is called Wacky Simple Simeon, and the werewolf is Wacky Wolfie. And if I ever get these two, then I'll do a proper episode talking about them. But that's just a little vintage toy show and tell to get things started. So, would you like to just ask some questions, or what would you like? The dreaded lavender jacket? Yeah, Frankenstein. Patrick, yeah, the lavender jacket. Yes, but it's not supposed to be a universal Frankenstein, so I'll forgive that. It's not supposed to be Boris Karloff. If you wanna, I'll just continue with some show and tell. So lately I've been buying more NECA items. I haven't really collected much of NECA historically, but I've been getting into it a little more. So I got I got this. This is Frank from They Live. Randy, hey Ray, hello, everybody, hello. So I don't have Nada and I don't have the aliens. I thought first I would see if I could get Frank, because he was the limited one. You had to buy him with a package with like a Blu-ray and stuff. So if I didn't get him, I wasn't going to get the others. But now that I have him, I'll go ahead and I'll get the other characters. That's Frank from They Live. So he's kind of hard to get. Well, I don't know if he's hard to get. He's expensive to get because he's not sold separately. Let's see what else we got here. Oh yeah, so this is still NECA. So yes, I was able to get. Oh, Danny says Quint just came out. Yeah, I haven't seen Quint yet. I'm definitely going to get Quint, but I haven't seen him yet. Hi, Super Monster. Old Nasty says Keith David is amazing. Yeah, he's cool. He's got a neat voice. You can always recognize his voice when he's doing narration and, like, you know, a documentary or something. I always ask Keith David's voice. You can always recognize him, and it's good that he's getting more recognition these days. And Hi Super Monster says, I need those NECA They Live humans. You only have the Alien 2-pack. And I don't have the aliens. I only have the Keith David character, Frank. Okay, well, set him down. So Patrick's asking, what's the green demon mask behind me? That is a licensed Gargoyles mask from the TV movie Gargoyles. That was made by Topstone in the early 1980s. I think they introduced it around 81-ish, but they kept making it all through the 80s. And it was a reissue of a mask made by Distortions Unlimited, and I've seen the Distortions version in person, and there's not a lot of difference between the Distortions version and the Topstone version. The Distortions is a little more refined, but it's essentially the same mask. And then Topstone picked up the license and the actual mold, sculpt, the master mold or whatever. They didn't just get the license and redo it with their own sculpt. They got the actual Distortions mask, Distortions released, and I don't know how that all worked. There was a whole package of Distortions Unlimited licensed movie monster masks that Distortions did first, and then somehow Distortions dropped the license. Topstone picked it up, but they didn't just do the same, like their own sculpts. They did the same sculpts Distortions made, only they did like cheaper versions of them. It's kind of complicated. I read a detailed account of this, but I'd have to look at notes to tell you everything that happened. The bottom line is, this is a Topstone 1980s Topstone mask. It's licensed. It's the gargoyle from the TV movie Gargoyles from the 1970s, the 1970s TV movie Gargoyles. And I foamed it. I actually have two of these. This is the one that was kind of rotting. This condition was a little So I foamed this one. The other one I have was foamed by a guy named Mascahuna. That's the name he goes by. And it's a nicer shape. But I'm using this one here in case the lights melt it or some crazy thing happens. I'd rather risk this one than the other one. And it's got a Velcro seam here. This is where it would open up, and there's Velcro pads. And let's see what it says as far as. So 1981 copyright, Ellis Berman, all rights reserved. Manufactured by Topstone. Made in Korea. So the Berman Studios I think, officially did the makeup for Gargoyles, but Stan Winston did this character, and I think Stan Winston was the head makeup designer for all the Gargoyles. So I'm not sure if Stan Winston was working for the Berman Studios at that point. I assume he must have been. I don't know all the ins and outs of that, but Ellis Berman was the one licensing this in the 80s. So let's catch up with some of these comments here. Let's see here. A lot of different. Okay, so I answered Patrick about the Green Demon. Old Nasty's saying he's dying for this Frankenstein. We'll talk about this in a second. They released pictures of Wolfman today. Yeah, I'll talk about that. Randy pre-ordered Quint. Hopefully we get a Brody and a Hooper. I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think, I mean, who knows? Things could change, but it seems like Richard Dreyfuss won't license his likeness out for toys anymore. He did for just like a second. So apparently he did authorize the Funko Pops figure. I don't know about the 3 3/4 inch figure, if he authorized that or if they got away with that because it wasn't considered a likeness. But apparently he won't license his face out to NECA for a Mego style figure. So I don't think you're going to get Hooper unless he changes his mind. Brody, the Roy Scheider estate was very difficult with NECA and wouldn't approve the likeness for Brody, for Roy Scheider. It's not that they said you can't do a Roy Scheider figure. It's just that every time NECA gave him a sculpt, say, how about this sculpt? The estate said, no, change this, change that. So NECA finally said, we can't come to an agreement on this. So they canceled him. So I don't think we're going to, unfortunately, get Brody or Hooper, which makes me wonder. I almost thought, do I really want Quint if you're not going to have Brody or Hooper? But I can't help but think that NECA, though they wouldn't say it publicly, NECA isn't giving up so easily, I bet. I bet they're going to put, because they can, they're going to put Quint out. And then, in a year or so, maybe they'll see if they can work something out with the other characters. I suspect. I don't know. Let's see here. So Jughead Grayson got the Shut Factory NECA Night of the Demons and My Bloody Valentine Slumber Party Massacre figure. That's a lot of figures. I'm not even aware of what the Night of the Demons or Slumber Party Massacre figures look like. I haven't really looked at those. I mean, My Bloody Valentine, I know what that character looks like. Let's see here. Yeah, some comments about Brody. Yeah, they publicly said they're not making Brody. He's canceled. The Undead Knight, did you pick up McReady from The Thing? No. I'm not. I probably will. I'm not sure. I really wish these were Mego style with fabric costumes. I'll see. I'm not sure about McReady. Danny, I hope the shark is still on. Yeah, NECA announced this big shark to go with the Brody and Quint figures. And at that time, they were still kind of hinting that they were also going to do Hooper. So I don't know now if they're going to do the big shark. Rob Tulo says, years after he died, I found out that my cousin did some accounting work for him and knew him. Would have loved to get an autographed or leftover T-Rex. Rob, who are you talking about? Years after Roy Scheider died, or get an autograph or leftover T-Rex? I'm not sure what you mean. Gojitron, what do you think about the recent explosion of companies involved in the Universal Monsters license, Super 7 NECA, etc., etc.? Oh, before I answer that, Scored Above the Breath says, what does that mean? Is that scared or scored? Scored. Raymond, are you selling your Lincoln figures? No. You saw a listing for $35,000. No, I'm not selling. At this time, I have nothing on eBay. I haven't sold anything on eBay since last October, I think. I only have 1 or 2 sales a year, like a Halloween sale and sometimes a spring sale, if I do anything at all. Rob says that he's talking about Stan Winston. Oh, that makes sense. So your cousin did accounting work for Stan Winston. And you would have loved to have got an autograph or a leftover T-Rex. I don't know if Stan had leftover Tyrannosaurus animatronic dinosaurs. I guess he could have said, here's this 40-foot Tyrannosaurus robot. If you want it, I don't have any place to put it. He probably would give something like that to Bob Burns, I suspect. In fact, I suspect Bob Burns probably does have at least the head or something for the T-Rex. Jughead says the McReady doesn't look like Kurt Russell. Yeah, the photos I've seen were kind of, it depends. I think there's one where he has the glasses or the hat or something, and I thought one of the heads looked okay, but the other ones are sort of eh. Okay, so getting sniffly. So here's this Frankenstein. Let's talk about this and talk about the NECA Universal Monsters. So here's the NECA Frankenstein, Boris Karl Frankenstein. So in my area, I went to all the Walmarts and I only saw 2 of these. There was one Walmart that had 2 of these on the shelf, and they both had these, whatever you want to call these hanger tabs, were bent. So this was the better of the 2. The other one was bent more severely. And I really hate that about this boxed style NECA figure, that they have these bent, well, that they make them with these hang tabs sticking out like this, because they're always bent. You go, particularly like Target, if they're on one of the lower shelves, so there's a shelf above it, they're all bent, because just to get them in the shelf, the store employees have to bend them just to get them in the shelf, and then people looking at them pull them back out again. They just get bent back and forth. So I don't know what the idea is behind these hanger tabs. I really wish NECA found a different way to do this. I don't know. Well, there are some companies that have like a little plastic one that kind of goes up and down. Maybe that's the solution. Well, let's take a look at Frankie. And I probably will get a second one of these, because if I can find one with a perfect hanger tab. Okay, so I can barely see him. There he is. Now, if I do more of these, I'll invest in some new equipment to make these go a little more smoothly. And one of them will be a camera that will be more mobile, because I'm using my desktop camera for this. And then maybe I can get close-ups of things like this. Or maybe do like a multi-camera thing where I can switch to the close-up camera. So there he is. There's Karloff as Frankenstein. And I think it's a pretty decent figure. I mean, when you take it all in, the whole thing, I think it's pretty decent. If you want to nitpick, the head is maybe a little short. The forehead ought to be a little taller. It's not like they shrunk Karloff down. It's an interpretation, and it's pretty good. I mean, compared to what's come before, it's hard to complain. I do wish it was a Mego style figure with a fabric costume. I have decided I'm going to buy these. Now, I thought this was the color. This is the color version, isn't it? It's hard to tell. I mean, it just kind of looks kind of gray. But it came from Walmart, so I think that the color version is the one they sell. Yeah, so the little flowers have green stems, so it's color. So I am going to buy these. I'm going to buy this set. We've seen pictures of the mummy, and we all, that looks like you would expect it to look. It's a Karloff mummy. But we saw the Wolfman just in the last day or so. They released all those pictures of the Wolfman. And Larry Talbot, Lon Chaney Jr. So I think that the Lon Chaney Jr. head and hands and feet when he's human form, I think he looks better than the Wolfman version. I think, not that the Wolfman looks bad, but I think that the Chaney Jr. sculpt and everything, that's new. There really hasn't been. I know Sideshow did a 12-inch Chaney, and it was okay, but there hasn't been a really good Lon Chaney figure with his face. Sideshow did a Larry Talbot, which I've got, and he's decent. And Hasbro did that a la carte Son of Dracula figure, which is much more stylized. But I think this is the first time well, I mean, this, besides it's a Sideshow, this is the first time that we're getting, certainly in that format, a Chaney Jr. figure. I want to say this century. I think was the Sideshow one like 99, or was it 2000, 2001? Well, so the first time in 20 years, I think that we're getting a Chaney Jr. sculpt. And so that makes me more interested in the figure than just when it was the Wolfman. That's nice. But now that I know it's also Chaney Jr., Larry Talbot as well, that's more interesting. It's more exciting. The head, the sculpt is better than the paint job. I saw the pictures of the unpainted sculpt, and that really looks good. The painted one, I don't know. Who knows what it'll look like when you actually have it in your hand. I think the paint kind of lets it down a little bit, but it's not bad. It's not bad. Let me catch up with the comments here. So Rob, the $30 thing, is that the Frankenstein you're talking about? Yeah, it's kind of expensive. Jughead, pre-order the black and white one. I'm gonna collect the color ones. I hope they make them all in color, because that's what I want. Undead of Night. I never see NECA figures in Walmart in Canada. I would love to have that Frankenstein. Well, they're not that easy to find here either. So, I mean, I had to look at a few places to find this. Let me look at some other items. Well, so here's the Sideshow Frank from a few years ago. Right there. Here's the Sideshow Frank from a few years ago, from 20 plus years ago. I think didn't they introduce this in 1998, I think? So that's the Sideshow. I have to say, all total, when considering everything, I still think this is the better version. I think this is the better rendition of the character. It has certain points that I like. Something about it kind of captures the character just a little bit better. Here's the black and white Son of Frankenstein from Sideshow. This just was what was handy. It was easy to get to this one, but I've got the color one and I've got a loose one, but I could grab this easily to show it to you. So that's what Sideshow did a long time ago, 20 years ago. Here's the Mezco one that came out recently. Yeah, you can't really see it. It's decent. I like it. You could argue about which one's better. They're different takes. I don't know. I think the Mezco, I like the proportion of the head a little more, the skinnier head. But I think the NECA one's a little better. I think NECA, even though Mezco has clothes, I like that as a costume. Well, what do you guys think? What do you think's the best Frankenstein figure so far? Give me some comments here. What do you think is the best in any format, as long as it's articulated? What do you think is the best articulated Frankenstein figure? Let me see what you think. See, what else have I been buying lately? What's this? Oh, more NECA stuff. So yeah, like I said, I've been getting more into NECA. So here's the Halloween 2 set with Loomis and Laurie. I saw someone online saying there were 2 Loomis figures. Did NECA make another Loomis? I'm only aware of this Loomis, unless there's an all plastic one from that series. I don't really like the all plastic. I'll buy these universal ones, but I really prefer the Mego style of cloth clothing. And just as we showed them, I might as well show good old Michael. So I had this one a little bit longer. Here's Mike, Mikey. So there's Halloween 2 set. I don't know how deep I'm going to get into NECA. I want the John Carpenter figures particularly. I really want to get all of those. But Snake Plissken he's up to $100 or more, and I know as soon as I bite the bullet and spend that much on Snake Plissken, they'll reissue him. I just know it. That would not make me happy. So let's see what people are saying about the Frankensteins. So Patrick thinks the NECA Frankenstein is best, the one that just came out. Scored Above the Breath thinks Mego Frankenstein is best. So the recent Karloff Mego Frankenstein, I assume. Old Nasty likes the Mego. Danny likes the Mezco 9-inch. What's the Mezco 9-inch? I know they did some stylized ones that were kind of cartoony looking. Is that what you're talking about? Randy says NECA is the best. Danny says Remco. Do you mean the larger Remco with the arms that move, or the smaller Remco? Got to catch up with these comments. Rob says Sideshow was the best. Yeah. Yeah, I'm kind of leaning towards Sideshow. Patrick says NECA. Collection Corner. Sideshow has a slightly bewildered innocence to the pose. Yeah, like I said, it kind of captures the character. There's the likeness and there's the character. And some things capture the likeness but not the character. Some things capture the character but not the likeness. I think Sideshow does a good job of striking a bargain between getting the details of the likeness, including the actor correct, and also capturing the essence of the character. Danny says yes. I'm not sure what he's answering there. Rob didn't know about the Halloween 2 set. Scored Distinctive Dummies did a Loomis. Yeah, I remember that. Christopher Lizzotti says the NECA Halloween 3 figure set is nice. Yeah, I like that. Danny, they made a Michael and Loomis 2-pack with diorama. NECA did? Was it part of the same series, or was it like an earlier series? Because I know NECA made some licensed movie figures some years ago that were constructed differently and are part of a different set. Old Nasty, they did a 6-inch version with Michael in the front of them. Oh, okay. Oh, okay, so that's more like that Ultimate series instead of the Retro Cloth series. Danny says Distinctive Dummies is great. Yes. Scored above the breath. Yes, just really expensive. Undead of Night. NECA has a nice looking werewolf from An American Werewolf in London coming out. Yeah, I've seen pictures of that. NECA Frankenstein looks best. Jughead has the Halloween 2-pack. So a few people are telling me about this 2-pack with Michael and Loomis, but they're all plastic figures. They're not costumed. Let's see here. Danny's saying, yeah, the larger Remco is the one he likes with the arms. Michael, I don't think the Sideshow figures have that outdone. Yeah, I tend to agree. Danny, NECA made it earlier, 2004, I think. You're talking about the Loomis and Michael, I guess. All right, so yeah, I think this is my favorite Frankenstein figures are the Azrak Canway figures. But as far as the best, like the likeness, capturing the character, I tend to think what's Jughead saying about Mego? So Jughead, you're saying the Mego Frankenstein is your favorite, or let me see here. Yeah, the Mego Frankenstein is pretty good. The 2 most recent Mego Frankenstein monsters have been really good, Randy Royce is saying, and they don't have the despicable green jacket. That's correct. Or even a gray jacket. Gray jacket's better than green, but even gray, black is really what he ought to have. On Michael, I love the Distinctive Dummies Hammer figures, as well as their Nashi and other foreign horror figures like Beast of Blood and Blind Dead. Yeah, I think I have almost all of the Distinctive Dummies Hammer figures. I'm missing, I'm missing these contest prizes or fundraising 2-packs that he did. I'm never going to get those. I think they were just like one of a kind or a handful of each one. And there was a female figure that if he's still holding it, I still need to buy that. It's been a year or so. I've got 2 Nashi figures. I think that's all he's 3. I think he did a 12-inch. I think he did 2 smaller ones. I think I have all 3 of those. And of course, I have the Beast of Blood. Who's this? You recognize that? I know it's kind of hard to see. That's the Beast of Blood. I've got the Distinctive Dummies Beast of Blood. I don't have the Blind Dead figure. Yeah, I don't know. I have to watch it with Distinctive Dummies because he puts out figures every month, and I have to discipline myself. I've told myself I'm only buying the Hammer figures. And once in a while, I'll make an exception, like Beast of Blood or a Paul Nashi. Once in a while, I'll make an exception, but for the most part, I try to stick with just the Hammer figures. Distinctive Dummies did a cloth-clothed Michael and Loomis 2-pack, and Mego did a Loomis? Yeah, Mego didn't do a Loomis. Jughead. There are Hammer figures out there. Okay, these are not licensed. So Distinctive Dummies. Let's see. How hard would it be for me to get my hands on these from where I'm at right now? Hang on. Let me see if I can. One moment, please. Let's see if I can get some of these Hammer figures. Hold on. Okay. So that is a distinctive Dummies hammer Frankenstein creature. Let's see what else is in here. Just randomly picking some out here. I'm not going to take very many out. Just a few to show people. And that's a Frankenstein and the Monster from Hell. What else can I show you here? No. Oh, he's still on. We'll stop after this one. There's the Abominable Snowman. Let's see. Yeah, no, I haven't bought a distinctive dummy. Michael's saying I haven't bought a distinctive Dummies figure in a long time. I'm not really into the new Hammer properties after some. Yeah, I haven't either. And it's good because I was spending too much money. When he was really going heavy on the Hammer figures, because these are not cheap, I was spending way too much money every month, every other month on the new Hammer figure. So I'm glad he stopped with the Hammer figures just for a while because I couldn't take it anymore just financially. He was clubbering my wallet. So these things are custom toys. They're not licensed, but they're very, very well made. I mean, they, obviously they look like real toys, and they're made in limited editions of somewhere between like 50 to 100. And they cost, well, the prices have been going up. So this one, for instance, limited edition 33 of 60. So we made 60 of these Monster from Hell. And they were, I think they were like $80. I think they're up to 90 now. Sometimes there are some special ones that are like 125, but mostly they're 80-ish, 90-ish. And he does licensed ones now and then. Like some of his more recent ones have had some kind of licensing. And he did a Coffin Joe, which was authorized by Mojica, and I think Mojica was still alive at the time. I don't remember. Yeah, because it wasn't this past year, it's before that. So Mojica authorized it, his family authorized it. But, I mean, they're limited, and most of them are not licensed. They're custom figures, and he puts out maybe 2 a month. And they sell out in a day. You have to be like on top of it. So if you're familiar with the doll world, that's really what it is. I mean, basically, he's a doll maker because doll manufacturers that do like handmade limited edition dolls, they do that. Every month they have the new doll that month or a couple of dolls, and if you're like subscribing to them, you jump on it and you buy the doll. So that's how I look at this. He's basically a doll maker. These are dolls, and he has his subscribers who get the email newsletter, and once it comes out, you got to buy it right then because 3 hours later it's probably going to be sold out. And he's been doing those for a few years, but yeah, I haven't been buying them because he hasn't been doing the Hammer ones. And like I said, it's probably good because it's saved me from hemorrhaging dollars. And I think the Hammer line, the Distinctive Dummies Hammer line, really has run its course. It's getting to the point where there aren't a lot of really desirable characters left. I mean, there's only so many. I don't need the the Twins of Evil, or I don't need those two sisters. I don't need every Karnstein, whatever, you know. I don't need that. Let's see what's going on here. Is DD a website? He's a person, but he does have a website. So if you Google Distinctive Dummies, you should find him. And Michael's saying that they did Salem's Lot and Kolchak. Yeah, and I've got the big Salem's Lot Barlow, and I have a couple of Kolchak figures too. Yeah, well, Michael's saying that Barlow is $1,000 when it turns up. Well, I didn't know that. I've got Barlow. I've got that big Barlow. I've also got, I think my favorite one, and the one that really got me, I think it's the one that got me into buying Distinctive Dummies, was the Vincent Price Theater of Blood Butch, the hairdresser character. I have the 12-inch Butch. That might have been my first Distinctive Dummies. I was already looking at the Hammer figures thinking, I think I ought to be collecting these, because there had never at that point been Hammer figures before. But I think it was that Butch that finally pushed me over the edge and said, okay, I have to buy this. Okay, so Randy Royce is saying, Ray, if you were forced to sell your entire collection except for one single item, what would that item be? I'm going to guess one of your Keith Ward Topstones. Huh. That's a hard question. I don't think, I've thought about that. I think it would be hard pressed to sell my carded Ahai creature. This is, as I always like to, he's always around. Anything I do on video, I always have my childhood Ahai creature. He's my buddy from childhood. So, but I have a carded one, and I'd be hard pressed to sell that. I think the wolves would have to be howling at the door for me to sell that. My blue hair Shockmaster, either of my Shockmasters, my Keith Ward Shockmasters, I'd be hard pressed to sell those. And there's a few others, but those are come up, and those are some of the higher priced things I've got. And there's also the, boy, it looks like the lighting's changed, doesn't it? It looks like it's a lot brighter now. I don't know what's going on. But anyway, oh, I'm getting a message saying my connection is unstable. Please wait while we try to reconnect you. Can you still see me and hear me? Am I still coming through? Okay, I've got a message that says your connection is unstable. Please wait while we try to reconnect you. So I might blink out. Okay. So where was I here? So those, that card AI creature and the two Topstone Shockmasters, those, I'd probably be hard pressed to sell those. Also, I'd wonder, would I, if I had to sell them, would I get what I think they're worth? I mean, I don't know. Would I get, especially with the Shockmasters, would I get what I have into them? Probably not. I don't know. Let's see here. Michael saying, thankfully, most of the main Hammer figures have been made by DD, and he doesn't do comely females. Yeah, women are very hard to capture in a Mego format. Even Mego, like I saw a post about the Wonder Woman in the last 24 hours where someone was saying they didn't buy the Mego Wonder Woman, the modern one, because, and they were, I think we're saying something like they wanted an Elvira, but not if it was going to look like the Wonder Woman. And I agree that Mego female characters just don't look good most of the time. They just don't turn out right. And I think Distinctive Dummies has the same issue. Anyone who works in that format has the same issue, whereas there's something about women characters where it's very difficult to get them right and to make them look, to capture the likeness or to capture the character. It's very, very difficult. Wasn't there a Brazilian Coffin Joe figure that you were looking for years ago? Yeah, let me see if I can. I don't like this light. It's bugging me. Maybe if I step back. I'm just gonna adjust the light, but we'll leave it. Rob, so here's the deal with the Brazilian Coffin Joe figure. Okay, so I heard like vague mentions, rumors that there was some kind of Coffin Joe toy that was made, or a figure of some kind that was made in Brazil years ago, like 60s, 70s, you know. And I couldn't find any information on it. So when I went to Brazil, the first time I asked Coffin Joe's son, Crow. They call him, his nickname's Crow, but I think it's Crownal, something like that. Everyone calls him Crow. I asked him if did he know about this figure, and his English is not great, but he could understand me. He said, "Oh yeah, that's like this, like, oh, that's no big deal," or something. He kind of dismissed it and changed the subject, but he went like this, like that's how big it was. And then I had a friend who had a Brazilian dealer connection, like a toy dealer, who went to like the flea markets and stuff in Brazil, and this guy gets him all kinds of cool stuff. And that guy said, "Oh yeah, a Coffin Joe figure. Oh yeah, I know what that is. There's a guy at this flea market I go to, and he's got one at his table. I'll go next week and I'll get it." And he went next week and it wasn't there. And he said, when it comes up, it sells cheap because nobody wants it. It's like, like a $15 item. But I couldn't get information about what does it look like. What is it? Is it a statue? Is it a posable figure? Is it a stuffed toy? Is it a chalkware thing? What? I have no idea. So I have no idea about this mythical thing that's rumored to exist. I don't even know what I'm looking for. I don't know what to ask people about. All I know is it seems like there was some kind of figural representation of Coffin Joe that was made during the time of his films, as opposed to like a modern thing. I mean, there's been some garage kits, like there's 2 garage kits, and I've got both of those, and they're about so big, and I know one of them's from the 90s. So I'm wondering, did Crow, was that what he was thinking of, the garage kit? 'Cause I don't think that made it to Brazil. And whatever this is, it's something that's in Brazil. So I don't know. I certainly want to know what in the world is this figure. Oh, Danny's saying I need a David Soul Mego for my Barlow. Nah. Michael, I don't have the DD Butch. You started with the first set of Mego style hammer figure. Yeah, so I started with Butch. I started with the he still had the first issue Hammer Mummy when I started, and I was able to go back and get the other 3, thank goodness. and then I kept up from there on. Let's see what else we got here. Michael, never sell your favorite toys. You'll always regret it. Yeah. I regret selling. I had an Alien collection, all kinds of Alien stuff, you know, from 79 Alien. I sold it all except for my childhood Alien. And I don't regret selling most of it, but I regret selling the boxed big figure. That's something I think I'm going to replace one of these days. I think that's an iconic monster figure from my childhood, and I should have that. But a nice boxed example, of course, goes for a lot of money. But I feel like one of these days I need to replace that. Scored above the breath. Ray, who's the figure that looks like Rob Zombie? That's Rob Zombie. That is a Rob Zombie action figure. I had this quite a while. I don't know what year this came out, but 2000 maybe, 99, 2000. And he used to make noise. Let's see if he still does. Well, no, because he'll start singing Dragula, and I don't know if that'll trigger like copyright stuff on YouTube, so I better not. But if you push a button on his chest, somewhere on his chest, he starts singing Dragula. Unless his batteries are dead, which they probably are after 20 years. But there he is. And he's got real hair, real dreadlocks. I don't think he glows in the dark. He looks like he would, but I don't think he does. But he's posable. He's got a nice costume. And of course, I always have this Godzilla around. He's handy. Let's see what else we have here. Rob, have any of your cats over the years ever wrecked one of your items? Yes. Okay. You're familiar with Stinker, my cat of 20 years that passed away a year ago. And I had a set of multiple plastics pop tops, those 2 packs with the header card and the back card and the clear bag, and there's 2 monsters, and their heads are attached to their side. And when they were new, you would pop the head off the side and stick it in their shoulders. Okay, I had a set of 4 of those 2 packs. I had them in my closet lying flat, like 1, 2, 3, 4, in a open box, just the right shape for like a litter box. I had that in my closet, and Stinker got in somehow. I left the door open, and he found that box, and he said, "Oh, this is a comfortable place for me to sleep." And so he rested, and I walked in, and I saw him all curled up on top of the pop tops. And I said, "What are you doing? Get away, get away!" And he jumped out, and he had he had broken all of them. So there was an entire set of packaged pop tops that were destroyed. But later I replaced it with another set in even better condition the second time around. But I've since sold those. I used to have a nice MPC Unbreakable Monsters and Pop Tops collection, but that's all gone. I sold it all. Let's see. Michael is asking, I think DD did a Coffin Joe. Yeah, he did one about a year or 2 ago. I think it was before Majika passed away, so I think Majika was still alive. In any case, I know Majika's family definitely authorized the doll. Okay, Michael, that DD Dracula Prince of Darkness is beautiful. Yeah, all the Distinctive Dummies Christopher Lee figures are really nice. They look different from the Mego one. The Mego one looks more toy-like, with the bigger head and the bigger hands. I like the Mego one. I like the Distinctive Dummies ones. I think it's important. You can say, oh, Distinctive Dummies, they're unlicensed, whatever. You know, you can criticize them different reasons, but they were out there before anything else. It's ridiculous that it took so long to get Hammer toys. It's just nuts. So my hat's off to Distinctive Dummies for just getting it done. All those years, all those companies were like, oh, we can't do Hammer, we can't do Hammer, we can't do Hammer. And finally, Distinctive Dummies just did it. And good for them. I mean, it's one thing if the companies, if the license is available and they're willing to play ball and negotiate and make a deal on licensed products. But when it's just a mess and no one knows who owns what and no one can figure it out, I've got no problem with, in those cases, with a customizer filling the void. And when licensed ones become available, at least for me, I buy them. So I bought the Mego Dracula. I'll buy the Van Helsing and the Reptile, and hopefully we'll get Baron Frankenstein and his creature and some other ones. When the legal, legit licensed ones are available, I buy them. But for decades, there was no such thing until Distinctive Dummies came along. Let's see here. Some praise for the zombie figure. Yeah, I like Rob Zombie. Of course, I think his music 20 years ago, I like a little more than his recent music. I think his first, of course, his last two White Zombie albums and his first 2 or 3 solo albums, those are classic albums of their type. And I think his later albums, you know, it's not quite on the same level. I keep hoping for him to kind of make a comeback musically, not career-wise. I think his career's doing fine, but artistically, I keep hoping that he makes another album as good as his earlier stuff. His movies, I like House of 1,000 Corpses, and I like Devil's Rejects. I think a lot of people like those 2 movies. And, you know, his Halloween movies, not great, but I can kind of forgive them. At least he was doing something a little different, as opposed to the like Halloween 4, 5, 6, H2O, Resurrection. I mean, those are worse. I think those are worse films than the Rob Zombie films. But obviously his Halloween movies are not his best work. I think we can agree on that. And then I saw Lords of Salem at the theater, and I kind of respected that he was trying to do something different, but it didn't really work for me. And I didn't see 31, and I'm not sure. Well, I'll see the Munsters because a friend of mine is in it, so I'll definitely see that. I'm crossing my fingers that I'll like it, but of course, as many people pointed out, Rob Zombie doesn't seem like his style really is what you would expect, you know, to be married to the Munsters. What's he going to do with this? Is it going to be white trash, cursing, violent monsters? I don't know. We'll see. I can't imagine him doing something that's like the original series. But, you know, there's been so many iterations of the Munsters, and none of them have worked. Every few years, Universal tries to resurrect the Munsters in some form. And even with the original cast, a couple of times, and it just never works. Whatever, there was some kind of lightning in a bottle in the 60s that you just can't recapture. Even the Munsters movie from back then, what's it called? Munster Go Home, where he's in England. Even that doesn't really capture the show. So it seems like a bit of a, it's a lost cause, kind of a foolish endeavor to bring back the Munsters again. We'll see. I mean, I'll keep an open mind. Maybe he'll be a classic. Maybe it'll be a great movie. I don't know. Let's see. I'm behind here. Oh, Undead is saying Rob Zombie would be an easy Halloween costume for me. No, I'm not going to do that. Rob Zombie has a very narrow kind of face, and I have a rounder face. There was a time when Rob Zombie really seemed like the guru of everything we love. Like, he was Mr. Horror. He was like one of us who made good, who got in and got the keys to the candy store. He doesn't really seem like that anymore. I mean, if anyone kind of has that role in the popular culture, I think it might be Guillermo del Toro. I mean, if there's someone who's like the guru of monster fandom, that's kind of, del Toro is kind of who I think of. I don't know if we really need a guru, but if we do, then I'd probably say del Toro is it right now, and Rob Zombie was it maybe 20 years ago. Let's see here. Randy, now that things are back to normal, will I go to any conventions? Yeah, maybe. Not. It doesn't look like it's going to happen this year. But, we'll see. I always used to go to Horror Hound in Indianapolis, and I haven't been to that in a while. They're not having it this year. They're having Horror Hound in Cincinnati, but not Indianapolis. And I don't plan on going to Cincinnati, and I don't even know when it is. If it comes back to Indianapolis, I might go to that, but I don't know. Wonderfest in Louisville was a couple weeks ago, and I did not go to that. So I'd like to go to a convention. We'll see. We'll see. People say I should set up at a convention, or I used to, like with the Universal Monster Army, of course, I set up. I had big displays and all that stuff. And before that, in the 90s, I tried being kind of a half-baked toy dealer for a while. And I went to a few shows with toys. And I just don't have the persona to be a toy dealer. I'm a curator, not a dealer. Like I wouldn't work in an art gallery trying to sell the stuff, but I can work at a museum. And also back when I was writing for Lenny Lee's Action Figure News and Toy Review, I would go to shows with all the Lenny Lee action figure magazines, all the different issues and stuff, and I would sell those. Let's see here. Danny, is that a McFarlane fly in the back? Yeah. I just grabbed some stuff like an hour before showtime. Like, I need some set decoration. And I was looking for that Frankenstein because I thought I wanted to compare him to the new NECA one. And then this guy was in the same box. Yep, there's a McFarlane fly. My asthma is acting up, so I'm coughing. My nose is getting more nasally like that. Let's see here. Yeah, Michael, the pop tops are expensive. As my friend Andy likes to say, they priced themselves out of my collection. Yeah, I got a lot of money for my NPC collection. It got split up between 3 or 4 people, and yeah, I got quite a bit of money for that. Let's see here. And unfortunately, I didn't have my show at the time, so it's too bad. It was a couple years before I started this, or otherwise I could have done an episode on it. But too late. And I'll never own those again. The NPC stuff, they've gone so crazy price-wise that I'll never own any of that again. It's just, I can't afford it. Yeah, Michael says he has distinctive dummies all over his walls. Let's see here. Basil Graham, do you collect monster magazines, one-sheets, or monster comics? I do not collect magazines. I have an FM #1 just because it's, you know, historic. I thought I should have Famous Monsters #1. But I didn't go from that to collect the whole run. I just have I have a couple random issues that just over the years got an issue here, issue there, but I don't seriously collect Famous Monsters. I have a couple issues that have Topstone ads because I thought I should have some of that, just to have the original Warren Topstone ad advertising. Comics, no. I have some random couple of monster comics, most like gifts and things that people gave me over the years. I have the complete run of all of the Coffin Joe Brazilian comic books. So that's the only monster horror comic I've ever seriously collected. I have all the 60s, early 70s, like 69 to 71 or something like that. All the Coffin Joe Brazilian comic books. They're in Portuguese, so I can't read them. But they look cool. They're very similar to like creepy and eerie Warren comics. Very similar style. And as far as one-sheets, yeah, I have a fairly involved poster collection. And I've talked about this before, I don't collect posters much anymore because I didn't know what I had. I can't display them because, I mean, if you've got a poster that's hundreds of dollars or $1,000 or $2,000, you're not going to display that because they're so fragile and the light damages them, everything damages them, moisture damages them. Just and the stuff I like, a lot of it is, I like a lot of Mexican posters that are in that really crumbly newsprint that you just, it's like you're gonna, if you try to open it up to look at the poster, it's just gonna fall apart. And I can't afford to lend back all that stuff. I've got a lot of Coffin Joe posters from Brazil, and they're also very fragile. And, you know, I've got a lot of exploitation horror posters, like stuff like Dr. Fives or Blackula, stuff like that. A Squirm, you know, those late 60s to early 80s kind of, that era is my favorite horror era. Although I like, of course, the Universal monsters and that classic era. Maybe the second favorite thing would be like this late 60s to early 80s, 70s exploitation horror movies. I've got all the Blood Island posters. I started to collect, what's that company that did the Universal re-releases? Real Art. I just dipped my finger in that world and jumped out because my timing was bad. The Real Art posters shot up just when I started to get into them, and I got a Dracula's Daughter and the Black Cat, but it's not called the Black Cat. It's got a different title. And I was going to get like the Invisible Man and the Mummy and some other Real Art, and they just went. One year they were like $700-800, and the next year they were $3,000 or $4,000. They just went crazy all of a sudden, and I just, well, I can't compete in this arena, so forget it. But let's see here. But I don't collect posters very much anymore because I don't display them. I don't even know what I have. It got to the point where I would be bidding on a poster like, do I already have this? I would make mistakes. I would buy a poster that I already had because I forgot I had it, or I would let a poster get away thinking I already had it when in fact I did not have it. So I just said, yeah, maybe I'm in over my head or something with this poster collecting. And so many of the ones I want are just way out of my reach. I mean, some of the most expensive ones I have Night of the Living Dead in perfect condition, and that's worth a pretty penny. And I've got Dracula's Daughter real art, and that's kind of expensive. But most of the posters I have are under $1,000. Let's see here. Hold on, I'll be back in a second. I need to hold on. All right, I'm back. Let's see here. Okay, monsters need to be animated like the Addams Family movie. Yeah, that would work. I think it'd be a good way to handle it. Julio says Rob Zombie said only movie ever bothered him was Audition. Yeah, that movie bothers me too. I have it on DVD. I didn't buy the Blu-ray. Joe Bob Briggs showed it a few weeks ago, and I just watched the Joe Bob segments. I didn't watch the movie. I think one viewing of Audition was enough for me. I like it, but there's a lot of movies I like, but I don't ever want to see them again. And Audition's one of them. Let's see here. 1998. Is that the Rob Zombie figure or? Oh, scored above the breath. What's the most recent horror movie you've watched and that you actually enjoy? I mean, the most recently made, I'd say Train to Busan. I loved that. That's probably the most recently made one that I liked. I thought that was one of the best zombie movies ever made. I thought that was great. Now I could talk about Audition scares a lot of men. I would think it should scare anybody, man or woman. I mean, it's a sad, disturbing film. It's a good movie. So let me talk about modern horror a little bit here. So Mike is saying I came just in time for the bathroom break. It was only 5 seconds. Okay, I was keeping up with modern horror till about 5 or 10 years ago. I mean, like, the last time I was seeing a lot of horror movies was like when The Babadook and The Witch and It Follows, Under the Skin, The Skin I Live In, that Human Centipede, that era, like, 5-10 years ago. At that point, I was keeping up and trying to stay abreast of the latest horror movies. And then sometime after that, I kind of disembarked. So like the last 5 years, I've seen very few recent horror movies. And I've seen very few new movies the last 5 years. I think maybe cinema in general, I just sort of like disconnected, but particularly horror. And I saw Hereditary, didn't like it. Actually, was mad at it. I mean, it wasn't just that it didn't do it for me. I was actually displeased with it. I thought it was a mean movie. It was a mean-hearted film. I didn't like it. And I get that from a lot of modern horror. There's something about where it's coming from that I just don't like. And I like a lot of disturbing stuff. Very disturbing stuff, like the French extremity movement from 10, 20 years ago. I like a lot of those films. Quite a few very notoriously dark, disturbing movies, like Audition, and stuff worse than that. So why would I like all those films? And Hereditary is where I draw the line, because I think most of those films, I mean, we'll just look at, let's take some very controversial films, like a Serbian film, Martyrs, Inside, you name some of the controversial, really dark, disturbing films from like 10, 15 years ago. I could make a case for every one of those films that, as dark as they are, they're coming from a good place. And I know some of them are really dark, but there's something humanistic about each of those. Hereditary just seemed like it was coming from a bad place. Like, why did he make that movie? What was he getting at? I didn't like it. It felt, there's just something mean about it. Like, bothered me. I'm getting that from a lot of modern horror, that it's just something cold and mean. It's not fun. I mean, what's the last fun horror movie? It looks like Train to Busan. I love that. And it's a dark movie. It's very bleak. A lot of good characters die, but it's a very human movie. And I think you leave the film feeling like it's a celebration of humanity and being human and loving people, even with all the death and destruction and the bleakness. And despite all the horror, it's fun. A lot of tragedy, and it'll make you cry probably, but it's still somehow fun. These recent horror movies, are they fun? These really dark kind of horror movies, are they fun? Do you have fun watching them? And you can celebrate humanity with the most bleak, horrible plot and still come away feeling it's a very human movie. I just don't get that from some recent films. I think there's something in the culture it's been dehumanized. There's something going on. And I don't want to be ageist in reverse, but I feel like a lot of these directors are younger. I'm not seeing it with the older directors. I'm seeing, I mentioned Del Toro. I love Del Toro. You don't see that with him, but you see that with the directors in like their 20s and 30s. And I think it's a cultural thing, maybe a generational thing. There's something, I mean, you could probably write a book about it. Something cold and I don't really want to touch it. I don't want to be part of it. Well, anyway, so I haven't seen a lot of modern horror. Let me see what else we got here. Yeah, some people talk about posters. Yeah, they're difficult to display. That's right. And if they're valuable and old, you don't want to display them because you'll mess them up. Lobby cards. I haven't bought hardly any lobby cards, but I'm thinking I need to get into that. Particularly, I like the Blood Island movies a lot, and I didn't buy the lobby cards or the stills, the official vintage stills, and I feel like I need to focus on that. I bought the posters, but I should have the smaller format movie paper. But in the past, I wasn't really interested in lobby cards, but I'm getting more interested. And maybe it's there, you can actually look at them, but you know how to unfold them. They're manageable. You can look at them and enjoy them without feeling like you're going to destroy them just by handling them. Undead of Night says Train to Busan was a thrill ride. Sequel, not so much. I haven't seen the sequel. I've heard it wasn't very good. Caveat is a recent one, an atmospheric horror movie with a creepy drumming rabbit. Oh, the movie's called Caveat. I haven't heard of that. Julio says, any thoughts on Lucio Fulci? Yeah, I've come around on Lucio. I didn't like him so much 20 years ago. I was sort of like, oh, why is everyone like Lucio Fulci so much? But I've come around on him. And so, yeah, I've seen a few of his giallos from the early 70s. And, of course, I like Zombie. And I like The Beyond a lot. I'm very fond of The Beyond. And I've seen both of those on the big screen. What is it? City of the Living Dead? Is that the one with the priest that's hanging? And the girl pukes out her guts. Yeah, I like that. I don't like it as much. And then House by the Cemetery. I just watched that recently. There was an online screening locally that would have been on a big screen if not for COVID. And there was a discussion afterward, and I watched it because of that. I'm not a big fan of House by the Cemetery. It's, I could reevaluate it, I guess, but this most recent viewing did just kind of confirmed what my earlier feelings that it was sort of not my favorite. And I've seen a few of his other ones, like Cat in the Brain. I think I saw that on the big screen too, Cat in the Brain. But I really like Zombie and The Beyond quite a bit. His other films, I can appreciate them some more than others. Let's see, Caveat. I guess I got to see this Caveat. I haven't even heard of that. Michael, older horror left more to the imagination, which I appreciate. I'm not against gore, but my imagination is scarier. Undead, Toy Rabbit, although I would like to see a real drumming rabbit. Randy Royce, couldn't agree more. Horror has become too mean-spirited these days. Yes, mean-spirited is true. And like I said, I like some very dark films, and I like a lot of those French films and European films from 10, 20 years ago. There was a whole cycle of very, very dark films. But there's just something very human about those films, very poetic about those films, and something's going on with the culture. I think we're in a mean culture right now. Just not just movies, just in general. There's something scary about the culture, and it's reflected in the movies. Jughead, I agree. Train was a good movie. Saw it on Joe Bob Briggs. I stopped watching new horror after the French movies like Inside Mars, which I enjoyed. Not much good out there. So we're kind of in sync there, Jughead. Yeah, I like those French movies, but in a way, those were everyone, even at the time, was saying, aren't these movies like The Last Word? How much further can you go than these? And maybe that's the literal truth. Maybe you can't go any further. And so we reached the end of the ride. So it was time to get off. Like, that was a good ride. Okay. So like anything after that, it's sort of like, why bother? Rick Baker, have you seen the new Wolfman figure by NECA Conversal? Yeah, I talked about that at the top of the program. And so I like it. I like the Larry Talbot head more than the Wolfman head, and the Larry Talbot arms and feet, and just when he's Larry Talbot put together, I like that Larry Talbot figure more than the Wolfman figure. The Wolfman sculpt is pretty good, but the paint lets it down. Not that it's bad, but I mean it could be better. George Ray, great job. This live is awesome. Oh, thank you. My first time doing this. I'm sure, if I do more, I'll get better. But thank you. Rob, what about Peele's films like Get Out? Oh, I saw that at the theater. I like Get Out a lot. I thought that was a classic. I thought that was great. See, that's a human, compassionate, relevant film. That's relevant to real life. You can identify with that. It's not cruel. It's not mean. And you can be very violent, like we were talking about Audition. I love Audition. Audition is not a mean movie. It's a shocking film. It's a disturbing film. It's a sad film, but it's about the human condition. It's not delighting in suffering. Let's see. Basil. Do you have any problems with moisture in the basement on the boxes? No. However, I was looking at some back issues of, I mentioned Lenny Lee's Action Figure News and Toy Review magazine. That's a 90s action figure magazine, kind of like Brian Heiler's Toy Adventures magazine. That magazine that is a throwback to magazines that were out in the 90s, like Action Figure News and Tomart's Action Figure Digest. There was a period in the 90s where there was a lot of those magazines out there. And I was looking through some of those a couple nights ago. I was trying to find an article about Toy Island. I remembered an article with like the president of the Toy Island company. And I think it was actually in a Tomart magazine, and I was looking through the Lenny Lee's Action Figure News, and it wasn't in there. I think it was in a Tomart magazine. So I was looking through these, and a lot of them, the pages were stuck together, and there was some warping. And some of the ones that I had in plastic didn't have that. The ones that I had out of plastic were sticking together. And I thought this is because of moisture. There's humidity, and like the ink is like sticking together, and you could peel them apart, but then there was it marred the ink a little bit in little spots, and I thought, it made me wonder about my posters. They're printed with a different process than those magazines, and most of the posters are either rolled or they're in plastic. But it made me think, I wonder if with these magazines, if this is happening, what else is happening that I don't know about? So there's definitely moisture. I've got a dehumidifier that's turned off right now. When I shoot a video, I turn it off. But I do have a dehumidifier. But it can only do so much. And I have it mostly because of the masks. I have a closet where I have most of my Keith Ward masks, and the dehumidifier is aimed at that closet. The closet's there, the dehumidifier's there. But it should be getting moisture from throughout the basement. Michael agrees about Zombie and Beyond. Saw Zombie at the Drive-In in '79. I remember seeing the commercials as a kid. I didn't see the movie as a kid, but I saw the commercial on TV, and I remember that music. Every time it came on, it kind of scared me. It'd have like the letter Z, O, M with the music, doom, 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 with each letter coming up, and I was just scared as a kid. But as an adult, I've seen it at the theater. Julio, I like Jacob's wife. Laugh out loud. I don't know Jacob's wife. Is that a Fulci movie, or what is that? I don't know. Is that a modern film? Michael, fun chat, Raymond. Thank you. Jughead, I pre-ordered it for Larry Talbot on Dead of Night. Yes, fun stream. Friendly subscribers, great questions. Keep the conversation flowing. Randy, gotta go. Oh, okay. Thank you, Randy. Thanks a lot. Good night, Randy. Thanks for coming. Let's see. Let's show something else and have a little more show and tell. So I was telling you I was getting into NECA. So I bought this. This is the only one of these King Kongs I bought. And I had to say, I don't really like these King Kongs for the most part. I don't like the joints. They look like Mecha Kong. Too many joints. They don't look right. But I thought I thought I should buy at least one of them. And I picked this one because it's got the Empire State Building. It's got, or at least I guess that's supposed to be the Empire State Building. I thought that was the most iconic look for Kong, is in New York with the Empire State Building. And yeah, the hang tag is still good. So when you open it up, it's got a very iconic image of Kong on the Empire State Building. So that's King Kong. So if I'm going to get just one of these, this should be the one because of the setting of putting him at the Empire State Building. Can't really see the figure very well. I mean, he's not bad. I can imagine something much better. I've always wondered about the weird licensing situation with Kong. It seems like the licensing is just all over the place. I'm not sure if these are licensed. Kong is a weird thing. It's like I think he's kind of public domain because of the novel. I think the novel went into public domain. And I've got the original novelization of King Kong. I had it as a kid, and I still have it. And then Universal says they owned it, and then of course RKO owned it, and when Dino De Laurentiis was making his film, the Universal was making another film at the same time, and the Universal stopped because Laurentiis got too far ahead in his production. But it's always kind of odd, like who owns King Kong. And I'm not sure who licenses these NECA Kongs, or if they're licensed. I mean, I would think if you're going to show Kong on the Empire State Building, that's obviously that references the 33 film. So I thought, how can the 33 King Kong is tied for my favorite horror movie. I like the 68 Night of the Living Dead and the 33 King Kong, and those are tied for my favorite horror movie. And probably my favorite movies, period. So I thought, how can there be detailed 33 King Kong toys on the market and I don't buy them? So I had to buy at least one. So I bought that one. But I wish they were less articulate. I think the joints are just interfere with the look of the thing. Oh, so let's see what we got here. George, what YouTube channels do you watch, if any? I like MIB Master Toy Museum. I really look forward to MIB's videos. He's not making as many as he used to. I don't think he's done one this weekend. But I really like, and it's not the information or looking at the toy. It's him. It's as a host. I mean, he's got a very warm, friendly, inviting personality, and I just like spending time with him, feeling like I'm down there in his museum, and we're just kind of chatting, having coffee, and talking about toys. It's just a very warm, friendly, pleasant experience watching one of his videos. So I will often, I'll come home from work for lunch, and I'll have coffee, and I'll eat a little pastry or something, and I'll set my phone. I'll watch MIB on my phone. I'll have like a little stand. I'll watch him on the phone, and he's like, "Guys, we've got a great show for you today." And I'm like, "Yes, we got a great show. This is gonna be great." I like his personality, so I look forward to his videos. So I like MIB. As far as I don't want to start naming a bunch of channels because then I'll leave people out and they'll get upset. But he's my favorite toy channel, just because it's the atmosphere. He's a very nice guy, and I like that. I like Rick Beato and his music channel, so I watch that a lot. If you don't know who Rick Beato, Beato, Google him. But I watch, almost everything he puts out. I really like the Pod Stallions podcast that Brian Heiler does about once a month. I've been listening to that since he started that, and I think that's great. Before it was on YouTube, it was just a podcast. I had to listen to it as a podcast, but it was much more convenient when he started putting it on YouTube. And let's see, I don't know who else do I want to single out there. Yeah, well, I mean, there's a lot of channels, but I watch a lot of music theory and recording channels, like teaching you technical aspects of music theory or music recording. Don't really watch that many toy channels because not that many deal with the stuff I like. Well, I should leave it there. Like I said, if I start naming too many, then people say, "Well, why didn't you name me?" Well, like, because, you know, all right, I'll be here all night naming channels. Okay, so let's see here. Oh, but I've been watching Mikey Severe's painting. He's on here. I'm watching his mask painting channel. That's a good channel. He's got a series of how to paint masks right now, and I don't think he's put out the next episode yet, so I'm looking forward to that. Oh, what we got here? Jughead picked up the Kong. He prefers Godzilla, and I haven't bought any of those NECA Godzillas, not one. There's a lot of them, and I like Godzilla a lot, but for some reason I don't know why. I feel like a Godzilla toy ought to be big. I don't like the little Godzilla toys. If I'm going to buy a little Godzilla, then I want it made of vinyl, made in Japan 30 years ago, 40 years ago. So I haven't bought the NECA Godzillas. There's a lot of them, and maybe that's why, because they put out so many so fast. I thought, whoa, if I get into this, I'm going to be buying 20 different figures. I don't want to do that. Barbara Crampton is great. Yeah, she's great. So that's Jacob's wife is a Barbara Crampton movie. I mean, as many people have remarked, she just does not age. Barbara Crampton. She must have a painting in an attic that ages instead of her. She's a lot of fun. She's very charismatic. I like her a lot. I don't think I've seen any of her non-horror work. I know she was in several soap operas, and there's a lot of people who really know her more for her soap operas and don't even know she was in horror movies, but I haven't seen any of her soap opera work. Rob says, do I still work as a reporter? No. I worked as a reporter 15 years, 2 years part-time, and 13 full-time. So 13 years as a full-time reporter. Started part-time. No, I don't work as a reporter. I used to be a newspaper reporter, and that was how I made my living. And everything I do on this channel, as far as my toy videos, everything I do is really informed by my experience as a newspaper reporter. So I think that's an important thing. I haven't really said enough about that the way I go about, especially the new toys, the modern toys, the way I go about reviewing those toys is very much the mindset that I had as a reporter writing a story. And I think once a reporter, always a reporter. You never get that out of your brain. Once you become a reporter for real, full-time, for a number of years, you're going to be a reporter the rest of your life, even if it's not how you make your living. It's how you see the world. And that's why if there's, I don't want to be negative in my toy videos, but if someone says something, I'll just, like an example, we were talking about the NECA Wolfman figure. Okay, it's a Lon Chaney Jr. Wolfman. Okay, So a couple of months ago, people from Mego were saying they couldn't make a Lon Chaney Jr. Mego because they couldn't touch Lon Chaney Jr. They couldn't go near Lon Chaney Jr. That's why they couldn't do that. Okay, I can't not mention that. I can't not say, but that's not so because NECA made a licensed Lon Chaney Jr. figure. Look, they just did that because that's the reporter in me. Because if I were interviewing, I'm not that this is an interview, but if I were writing a story, like a politician says something, and then they contradict themselves or someone else contradicts what they say, I can't just blow that off. I have to say, but wait a minute, that's not right because this is so. So if that's so, this can't be so. And that's, it's not about being negative. It's about just reporting the facts. And that's the way I approach. Like I was saying about this NECA King Kong, the joints. Like, why can't I just say, oh, it's a nice figure and not mention that I don't like the joints? Well, because I that's the way I look at something. I mean, I have to point out what I like or what I don't like and how I think it could be better. I don't think there's anything wrong in as long as you don't do it viciously, do it with respect and in a civilized way. I don't think there's anything wrong with offering a critique of things that are offered to the public, whether it's a movie, TV show, a book, a toy, a performance. When you put it out there, if you're going to talk about it to the public, I think you need to be objective and say what you like, what you don't like, and also why. Why do you like it? Why do you not like it? And you can't gloss over things, or otherwise you're kind of a hack. If you just kind of gloss over it, what are you doing? So my 15 years as a reporter just won't let me do that. I've got to kind of drill down a little bit, and if some people think it's negative, I'm sorry, but that's not my intent. My intent is just to more or less report on whatever it is I'm talking about. Go at it with a kind of journalistic point of view. So whatever I do, if you think, well, why is he approaching it this way or that way? Because I'm a reporter. I was a newspaper reporter, and once a reporter, always a reporter. It will never leave me. Let's see here. Prince Namor. Is it Namor? Yeah. They need to make us an Empire State Building top prop to display our comms. Nobody makes playsets anymore, do they? That's something people have been asking Mego about, and I don't blame them because, I mean, obviously, do I want an Empire State Building playset personally? No, not really. Do I want a Mego playset? No, not really. Because I understand it's not profitable. They're not going to make money after, I understand why Mego's not doing playsets or vehicles because it won't pay for itself. There's not enough. It's going to cost too much, and they're not going to sell it. I know that. But also because I'm not a little kid, so I'm not really going to play with these things. I know Super 7, or was it Reaction? Well, when they did their Alien toys at first, they had some playsets that were like convention exclusives. I thought that was cool. But they were convention exclusives, and they were like resin. They wasn't really like a Kenner. They tried to make it like a Kenner playset from the 70s, but it wasn't really. So I understand why people want playsets, but I feel like if you really want that, make it yourself as a custom. If you really want to display your figures in like a diorama kind of thing, you can then make a custom thing. Like a train collector would make his train diorama for his train set and put a lot of work into the the landscape and the buildings and everything. Well, action figure collectors can do that and make a diorama if they want to display it. So I understand why companies don't make playsets anymore for adult collectors, for something that's aimed at kids. And there are still some action figure lines aimed at kids. It's rare, but there are still some. Then, okay, for a kid, yeah, kids will, if they're playing with toys, which is a big if they're playing with toys, yeah, they would play with the playset. But for an adult, I'm not, personally, I don't really need a playset. That's my personal feeling. Julio, do you like other metal artist groups like Robson? I love Ghost. I'm a huge Ghost fan. I was big on Ghost, oh gosh, back with Opus Anonymous. Opus, not Anonymous. Eponymous. The first movie, first album. Okay, so I remember when I first got into Ghost, no one knew who they were. They just had the one album. They hadn't come to the United States. They hadn't done any dates in the United States yet. They were still just doing like little venues in Europe. And I saw a video, I think, of Here Comes the Sun, their cover of Here Comes the Sun. And then I saw a video for a live performance of Ritual. And I thought, wow, what's this? The costumes and the sound of the whole thing. I'm like, this is really something different. I like this. And then I got the Japanese import version of that first album. They had Here Comes the Sun on it. And I've just been along for the ride ever since. It's been a bumpy ride. And they had some hiccups, as anyone who knows about that band knows, they've had some ups and downs. But I'm still a Ghost fan, and I'm looking forward to, I've seen them every time they've come to the St. Louis area. And the first time they were opening for another band, and everyone was there for the other band, and they were like, who's this Ghost? Who are these people? And I was like, yay, Ghost. I was like, me and a few other people in the audience seemed to be the only ones who were really excited about Ghost. And then like 6-8 months later, they came back with their own tour with no other band. And Pop Art comes out on stage and says, we meet again, properly this time. And everyone laughed because most of the people there probably had been at that other concert that didn't go very well. So, okay. So I'm a Ghost fan. But I don't really think of Ghost as heavy metal. I think of them as pop, like kind of dark themed pop, horror pop. So I don't like real heavy metal, the kind of acts that like a real metal fan would like. No, I don't really listen to that. Rob Zombie is kind of pop. Ghost is pop. So I kind of like horror pop, but I don't really listen to hardcore, serious, authentic heavy metal. No, I don't go for that really. I don't like when the lyrics like or those kind of lyrics like death metal. No, that doesn't do it for me. Sorry. Old Nasties, what do you think of the Playmates 12-inch King Kong based on Godzilla? Okay, so I didn't know Playmates was still around as a company. Playmates is still making toys. I didn't know that. I haven't paid attention to the Godzilla versus Kong toys. I've seen them here and there. They didn't, there's nothing I really wanted to buy. There was a deluxe Big Kong that was like $200 or $300. I think it was Mezco, and it's like it's articulate. It's very, very detailed. If it wasn't so much money, I'd probably want that, but it's not for the price it's going for. And I wish they'd put out that big Godzilla again from the first movie, because I didn't buy it then. Because for one thing, I just didn't have any space for it, and I was kind of on the fence with that first movie. But it's grown on me since then, and the whole franchise has grown on me since then. So if that were out now, I'd probably go ahead and buy it, but it's not out now. Let me see here. What else we got? No man owns King Kong. He's his own ape. Have I seen Drip Mode's Kong diorama? No, I don't know who Drip Mode is. Let's see here. Oh, I'm losing track here. Oh, there's Mikey. There's a new series based on Rick Beato called Why This Song Sucks by a guy called Pat Finnerty. It's quite good, very funny. Okay, I could give it a try. I have a feeling I'm not gonna like that, but I could give it a try. Mikey's thanking me for the plug. You're welcome. Jughead, I found your channel on Brickman Tooth last year, along with Open by Chance. I do watch Open by Chance. I do watch. I like Open by Chance. I like that opening song. That bass. I fast forward through that. That opening music is I wish that was a little shorter, but I do watch his channel, and I like him and Lady Pop Hunter. I like them, and I watch, of course, all of Brian's videos. I watch all of those, and I watch Underworld Collectors. They don't do as many videos as they used to, but I watch those. But like I said, I don't want to start mentioning everybody's videos, because then people will get upset that I did not mention them. Okay, see, Jughead, I find your channel on Brickman Tooth. Michael, Raymond, did you ever encounter any monsters in your reporting? I like Carl Kolchak. No, of course, many times as a reporter, I kind of pretended I was Carl Kolchak. I'd have the Night Stalker soundtrack in the car, like dun 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 dun, and driving to the scene of a story. It was the movie Night Stalker movie soundtrack. Now I've got the TV series soundtrack too, but I didn't have that then. Every City Monsters? No. Every Halloween I would write a monster or supernatural themed story. So I would do like a Momo the Monster, that's Bigfoot, or a haunted house, local hauntings. I would do that every Halloween when I could get away with it, but never came close to encountering any monsters, unfortunately. I've probably interviewed a few people who were monstrous. Well, I don't want to get political. We had a very interesting governor a couple years ago. Don't want to name his name, but I had a lot of exposure to him before he was governor. Coming up as a reporter, I talked to him many times long before he ever ran for governor. And you just Google the Missouri governors like from a couple years ago, and you'll see the story on him. He turned out to be an interesting character. And I think he wants to be governor again, or wants to be senator or something. Let's see. Where am I here? Rick Baker Miko also made The Screaming Werewolf, which is solely licensed by Chaney Estates. Yeah, so they have that relationship with the Chaney Estate. And what happened with the 14-inch Dracula? Why is that not Lugosi? What happened? Because they had a relationship with the Lugosi estate. Did it sour, or some new people running things there, or what's going on? How come they were not able to make that 14-inch Dracula a Lugosi Dracula? It's a mystery. Obviously, you can tell from the costume that it was originally going to be a Lugosi Dracula. It has that Lugosi Broadway Dracula costume, but it has the generic head. That's a shame. I mean, imagine if that 14-inch Dracula had Lugosi head. That'd be really something. So that's unfortunate. It's a missed opportunity. And if they couldn't get Lugosi, why not just go for Christopher Lee? They got that. Imagine a 14-inch Christopher Lee. Just do that. That would be fantastic. But I can understand they want, if they're going for a universal set of 14-inch Universal monsters, okay, they gotta have a Dracula in there. But It looks like they reused the MC head and blew it up bigger. And you know how I am about reusing the MC heads, MC parts and stuff. Not a fan of that. And I like that Screaming Werewolf. That's certainly easily one of my favorite Migos. I like the blue shirt version best, but I like both those Screaming Werewolves. Michael, I was elated when I found that Migos Screaming Werewolf, it does have 8 feet. Yeah, I like the 8 feet on the Screaming Werewolf. It makes it unique. Jordan, do you like Kiss? I never got into Kiss. Never did. And I was exactly the right age that I should have been into Kiss, but I just wasn't. I like some of the merchandising of Kiss. I would love to have the Halloween costumes. I'd love to have the Mego figures, the 12-inch box Mego figure. You know, they're monster-ish, monster adjacent. I've never gone after any of that, but I could see myself in the future buying that. So I like the vintage Kiss merchandise. I don't really like the music. What I have heard just didn't click with me. So I like the image and the atmosphere and the mystique of Kiss, but I don't really like the music. Let's see, Basil, are you thrifting anything vintage in the wild? No, I don't thrift. Obviously with COVID, that's not going to be happening. But even before COVID, I'm not a picker. I went through a period where I tried to do that, kind of go out into the wild, and I never found anything. I get very dusty and dirty and icky and not find anything. So no, the stuff I like is so specific. I have to pick all year to find 1 or 2 things I like. So it's easier to just use eBay. I don't buy a lot of stuff direct from collectors, and I wish I could, but the collectors who have things I want, they're either not for sale, or they're not for sale when I ask, and then a few months later they've sold them to someone else, whatever happened, or they say they're going to sell it to me and then they never do for whatever reason, and it just gets stressful. I like how eBay is just so mechanical. You don't have to deal with personalities. You don't have to deal with egos. You don't have to deal with lies or people misleading. They might have a description that's misleading, and that's a problem. But as long as everything's up and up on the listing and they send you the item, and it's all just cut and dry and there's no drama. I like that. I like no drama involved. It's just very mechanical. Here's the money, here's the toy. Okay, great. Whereas when you deal person to person, there's so much drama among collectors, and there's so many colorful personalities and people doing things that are certainly not what I would do or how I would handle things. And it gets very stressful. Will I be Silver Aces? Will I be making more Tomb of the Topstones in the future? I would like to, and I've always been meaning to go back to that. I'm very picky about those, and every time I think, well, let's make another one, I think, but I really wish I had this piece or this piece to make it the presentation more complete. I'm missing like this variant or this version. So if there's a particular mask, I want to feature that mask. I think, oh, but I don't have this version of it, or I don't have this thing I feel like I should show to. And so I kind of let the perfect become the enemy of the good. And that's stopped me from pursuing more Tomb of the Topstones. And just Basement of Horror kind of takes all my YouTube energy. I haven't had a lot of energy. My YouTube energy is in limited supply, and I've been putting it all towards Basement of Horror. But I would like to do at least another 6 episodes of Tomb of the Topstones. And that was my original intent, was to do like a 12 or 13 part series. And I did 6 and kind of stopped there. But also Tomb of the Topstones, I put a lot of work into those. And at first, nobody was watching those. I mean, like a year would go by and there'd be maybe 100 views or something. Now they've got more views. But at the time, it seemed like, wow, I'm putting all this time and effort in this and no one's watching. So maybe I'm barking up the wrong tree. Whereas with Basement of Horror, it's something more doable. It's more practical to sit here and show toys, and it's still a lot of more work than you'd expect, because I'd got at least 2 cameras and editing to do, and it's more than you would think that goes into that. But it's doable, and I can do it consistently. It's particularly with the season format. Instead of trying to do it 52 weeks a year, I can do it consistently. Whereas Tomb of the Topstones, I put a lot. Those are like little documentaries, and I put a lot of work into that. And I want to start it up again, but one of these days I do think I'll make some more. Jordan, is making music your main passion, or is it making films? Let me say that a little more slower. Jordan asks, is making music your main passion, or is it making films? And that's a good question. I haven't made a lot of films because film making is a collaborative process, and you have to get a lot of people together. You have to rally the troops, and particularly if you're making short films or indie films, there's really no money, but it costs money and it takes a lot of resources and a lot of times. And so what can you really offer people in return? You can't pay them because you don't have any money. So you end up just kind of rounding up whoever you can. And it's very difficult to make a film that way. So even a little film just kills you. I mean, at least doing it the way I want to do it, it knocks you out. And also financially. So every time I've made a film, it's taken a couple of years to recover financially. It may not look like it when you look at it. I'm like, this doesn't look like it costs me money, but it does. And it just financially wipes me out for a couple of years. But also, it's very difficult to it's difficult to find the on-screen, the acting talent locally, to find enough people who are really good cinematic actors to populate the film. And your film really rises or falls on the quality of the acting. I think even more than the story or anything else, you really got to have some good actors. The casting is very important. And I think a good cast can elevate poor script or poor production values, but an incorrect cast will destroy the best script and the best production values. And so it's very difficult to find the screen actors to populate a cast. So it's just really difficult. If I had more resources, I'm sure I would be making films. But music, it's hard to say what's more of a passion. I certainly spend more time making music, but that's something I can do myself. I don't need 20 other people to make a recording. That's something very personal. It's something I can just do on my own. I don't need anyone's permission. I don't need anyone else to think it's a good idea. I don't need anyone else to do what I tell them to do or to be on board with something. I can just do it myself. So lately, I think music's been more of a passion. I wonder, to what extent is that because it's more doable? Because I can make music, whereas filmmaking requires this insane effort to get all these people and resources and everything together. What kind of leads to the other? Is it because music is something I'm able to do that it's become more of a passion? I'm not sure. but certainly both are passions. Since I was a little kid, I wanted to make movies. I wanted to make music. Since I was a kid, I had my little Casio VL tone. I was making avant-garde recordings with my little Casio VL tone, VL1, and I was making Super 8 films. And of course, if I could, that's how I would be making my living. That, if I could make a living just with movies or music or both, that's what I would be doing. And it's very difficult to find time for any of this. If you have a day job, you come home from the day job, and for me, I don't feel like now I'm going to do a bunch of creative stuff. I come home and I'm like, I'm not ready to take on the world. I feel like just, so it's hard to find the time and the energy to pursue the things that fuel my passion and give me creative satisfaction. So it's a complicated situation. Have I ever discussed video games? I don't play video games at all, ever. I just don't. It's not part of my life, and I don't want it to be. It seems like it's kind of taken over the world, and like everyone plays video games, and I think it's part of the. I was going to say it's part of the culture, but part of what makes society what it is today, and part of people's outlook and the way they view the world and view each other, I think is heavily influenced by video games, for better or worse. And I feel kind of good being a video game virgin, that I'm kind of different, like an alien. I'm different from everyone else in that I don't play video games, so it's not that DNA is not inside of me. It's not part of my code. When I was a little kid, I played Atari, like the early Atari. And I say, why would anyone want to do this? I played it bleep, 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 bleep a little bit. In the 90s, my brother would play things like Doom and that kind of stuff. And I played a few minutes here and there. And I was like, why would you want to do this? And I've watched other people playing video games. And I'm just like, why would you want to do this? So it's not part of who I am. Okay, let's see what else we got here. Jordan, what are my favorite foods to eat? Well, when I was a kid, I loved Kraft macaroni and cheese and Kentucky Fried Chicken when I was a little kid. But I've been a vegetarian for 20 years, so I haven't had any chicken. I don't want any. It's not real chicken, fake soy chicken. But so I don't eat any meat, and I haven't for like 20 years. And the thought of eating meat grosses me out. I don't want any meat. My favorite foods. Well, my favorite things to drink would be cappuccinos. I have an espresso machine. I make my own cappuccinos at home. I like martinis, like vodka martinis, but I haven't had one since the end of 2019. So all through the pandemic, I never had a martini. And to this day, I haven't had one. Not because I'm trying to practice abstinence or anything, just I just haven't. And the longer I go without one, the more it takes on a kind of importance. Like the first time I have a martini in a year or 2 years, it's going to be a big deal. So it should be like a special occasion. But I used to drink martinis all the time. By all the time, I don't mean every day. I mean like once a week or whatever, like on Friday night or whatever. If I went out with some, friends, instead of beer, I would have a martini. So I like martinis. I'm a martini guy. I like that. But I deliberately never bought vodka or martini shakers to have at home. I never go to the store and buy vodka. I never have bought shakers because I don't want it to be something at home. I want it to be like a special thing when I'm out somewhere and someone else makes me, a bartender makes me a martini. And if I had it at home, I feel like I'd come home from work and like make a martini and it would just get pathetic. I don't want to be making, I can make espresso all the time, but not martinis. I think that would get ridiculous. Now I'm just trying to think of food. Wow, what do I like to eat? I eat a lot of meatless stuff like soy and wheat gluten, stuff like that. I eat a lot of like fake meat stuff. I don't know. I still like macaroni and cheese, but I don't eat it very often. I like cherry pie. I like cherry pie a lot. I don't know. I think I can tell you when I was a kid what foods I liked. Oh, certainly. But as an adult, I don't. Maybe food just isn't a big deal to me as an adult. I don't know. Let me see here. What else we got? Earl Ferguson, have I considered doing movie reviews? I've considered it, but I don't think I should. I think that's a commitment. That's a whole different level of energy and effort. I was just watching a video of Tim Lucas earlier today, listening to Tim Lucas, who used to publish Video Watchdog. That was a magazine he published many years. And he does a lot of commentaries on Blu-rays and DVDs. Very respected film author, film historian, film critic. And I can't do what he does. And if I were going to do it, I would want to do it on that level, and I can't do that. And there's already so many people doing such an excellent job at that I feel like what would I bring to the table? You know, why would I Johnny come late and say, hey, I'm going to do movie reviews too? Why? Well, instead of watching me, watch someone like Tim Lucas. You know, why would you watch me? So if I can't bring something new to the forum, why should I do it? And if I were going to do movie reviews, I would have a standard for myself that I think would be hard to meet. And if I couldn't meet that standard, I don't think I'd want to do it. So I've thought about it, but I think my standards are kind of my nemesis. Jordan, thank you for the kiss answer. You're welcome. I might like Mercari. I've heard of Mercari. Wow, I've let's see here. Well, I'm getting lost in behind. Do I have Haunted Mansion stuff? A little. In fact, I was just looking at something I thought I might show you, but I thought, nah, because it didn't seem like that big a deal. But no, my friend Andrew has a lot of Haunted Mansion stuff, and I can't keep up with what he's doing. He's hardcore into Haunted Mansion. I like the Haunted Mansion. I've been to the Disneyland Haunted Mansion many times. In fact, when I haven't been there in a while, but like I 20 years ago, I would go to Los Angeles at least twice a year. I don't go there anymore. I mean, I can't afford it, and there's no practical reason for me to do it. But for a while, I was going there. I was trying to get a job there, so I was going on job interviews. I would line up like a couple of interviews in 1 week, and I would go to Los Angeles and have the job interviews, and like 6 months later, I'd come back and sometimes have like a second interview some months later. So I was trying to get a job there, but I couldn't afford to just plant myself there and stay there. And I came close. I mean, if one of those employers had said yes instead of no, the trajectory of my life would be different. But I mean, I came close. I had some callbacks and came this close to maybe getting something, but yeah. But I went through that period where I was trying to find work there. So I was going there at least twice a year. And I would go to Disneyland, and I would get on the Haunted Mansion ride, and I would just stay on. I would go through it, stay on it, go through it again, you know. And one time I was on there, and the power went out, or not the power, but the ride broke down. It stopped. The ride stopped, and they turned on all the lights, and I saw how everything was operated. It was in the big room, I think, with those ghosts that float around. The big diorama room. It was in there, so I saw a lot of stuff and how it operated. And I saw, and the crew came in and started working on things, and they fixed whatever was wrong, and the ride started again. That was an interesting experience. So I like the Haunted Mansion, but no, I don't have a lot of stuff. I'd like to have the Ben Cooper costume. That would cost me a pretty penny. I'd like to have the vintage model kits. I know they've reissued some of them. But do I want them enough to pay what they're going for? I'm not sure. Jordan, my daughter wants to know, what is your favorite color? Black. My favorite color is black. Michael Dodd, Raymond, do you have any Vern Langdon zombie stuff? Like the Killing Man? No, I don't have any of the masks. I've certainly had opportunities to buy the reissues of the masks. And I've seen an original one up close. I think I even held it in my hand, an original Vern Langdon zombie. And I don't have any of the LPs or CDs. I'm not really a fan of Vern Langdon's recordings. They're interesting. I mean, I can appreciate them, but it's not something I feel like I need to own, something that I would listen to, just on my own without any sort of, historical context or some particular reason to listen to it. I appreciate him as a historical figure in horror culture, horror fandom, but I've never really been. I probably, I say that I probably do have some of his albums digitally, but I've never bought a physical copy. The Mask, I like the Vern Langdon zombie, but not enough to pay what any of the reissues go for, and of course not enough to pay 20 grand or something for the original one, but not even enough to pay a couple hundred or 500 for a reissue. It's cool. I like seeing it in other people's collections, but I don't feel like I need to have one on the shelf. Oh, Patrick, if you do, please feature the Graveyard Devil. Yeah, so Patrick's talking about Tomb of the Topstones, Graveyard Devil. I absolutely wanted to do a Devil episode, which would have the regular Devil and the Graveyard Devil. One reason I haven't done that yet, because as I said, like, I let perfection stand in the way of the good. I don't have either any masters of either of those to show people video or photos of a master. Well, I guess I have a photo of the Graveyard Devil master, but I also don't have any modern pulls, like the modern thick pulls of those characters. I don't even have that for the devils, because the devils are hard to find in the modern versions. The modern thick pulls from the original molds, those are hard to find. The devil's hard to find. The Graveyard Devil's very hard to find, because whoever had the master and made the molds in the modern era just didn't make very many of them. And the people who have the masters now are kind of sitting on them and not doing anything with them. And I know who has the Graveyard Devil master, and that's something I would like to own, that master, because the Graveyard Devil is my favorite Topstone character. I love the Graveyard Devil. So if there's one master I'd like to own, I have a few masters, but there's one master I'd really like to own that I don't have. It's the Graveyard Devil. I really would like to own that master. And I know who's got it, but I don't think he's gonna. I think he seemed like he was going to sell it at one point, and then it didn't happen. But so why haven't I done a Graveyard Devil Tomb of the Topstones, or a Devil Tomb of the Topstones? Because I don't have the modern ones to show. I want to show the vintage and the modern, just like I did for all the other ones. I don't have the modern ones because they're so hard to find. I don't have them. So there's something missing, and I can't do an incomplete documentary, mini documentary, and then maybe a year later I get them and like, oh, I wish I had them when I did that. So that's why I haven't done that yet. Rick Baker, and Rick, just for the record, because I have a friend who assumed you were the Rick Baker, the legendary makeup artist. I don't think you're the Rick Baker. I know Rick Baker, the makeup artist, is very active on Instagram, and he was in the Universal Monster Army for a while. I don't think you're him. And if you are, no big deal. But no, I'm not going to bug you or anything. But I'm just curious. I'm assuming you're a fan who uses that name because you're a fan of Rick Baker. But I'm a friend of mine was wondering. Um, I think the Lugosi and Chaney estates are very difficult to do business with. Karloff estates work best with Universal. Yeah, so it's interesting. It changes because a few years ago, or some years ago, the Karloff estate was not playing nice with Universal, and the Chaney estate was like the go-to. And so you had the Chaney Mummy, the Chaney Frankenstein, the Chaney Dracula. Chaney became like the go-to license that Universal thought, oh, we one-stop shopping, we can just deal with Chaney. And then that changed, and Lugosi was always difficult, but then that kind of opened up. And then Karloff, which was difficult for a while, that opened up. So it's weird how these estates, these three estates, and I've met Sarah Karloff many, many times. I've met Lugosi Jr. at least once, maybe more than I'm forgetting, but at least once. And I've met Lon Chaney and his daughters. He's got his two daughters with him. So, I mean, these are not just, faceless entities. I know not buddies, but I mean, I'm acquainted with these people. And they're, it seems like it just goes up and down. Like one year they're talking with Universal, and the next year they're like broke up. And you just never know what's going on. I wish they would just do like a once and for all kind of a lifetime deal with Universal. I thought Karloff estate did that. I thought they made some kind of a perpetuity kind of deal with Karloff. I'm not sure, but I wish they would just have a deal that's good for all parties, where forevermore Lugosi likeness is stuck to Dracula, Chaney likeness is stuck to Wolfman, Karloff likeness is stuck to Frankenstein. It's just forevermore. And there's just like if you have like a song in a movie, okay, let's say you use like we were talking about Rob Zombie earlier. Let's say a movie comes out and it's got a Rob Zombie song in it. Well, they have a deal so that forevermore, if it's done right, you don't have to like renegotiate whether you can have that song in that movie. Forevermore, whether it's released on home video or television or back in theaters or whatever you do with it, streaming, whatever, that song is attached to the movie, and it's just there's a royalty paid. And you don't have to, every time you reissue the movie in some form, have to renegotiate having the song in there. Not the case with some older films where there are problems with songs, where you end up with releases the film where like a song is removed or replaced with another song or weird stuff like that. But now that's been standardized and you don't see that anymore. So why can't they do that with the likenesses, where there's just in perpetuity, when you put out a Frankenstein figure of Karloff Frankenstein, it's already baked in that, okay, the Karloff estate gets a certain percentage and there's no new negotiations taking place. That's how I wish they would do it. Rick Mantooth, insomnia is my secret creative fuel. Well, I'm most creative in the middle of the night, like midnight, 1, 2, 3 a.m., but that doesn't go so well when you have a day job. And my boss kids me about this. But for sure, a lot of my creative work is like Basement of Horror. I always shoot that like 1 or 2 a.m. in the morning. Every time you see me sitting here, it's in the early morning hours when I record those things. Music, same deal. I record that stuff in the middle of the night. So that's my creative time. But that sure doesn't work well when you got to be up in a few hours to go to a job. So there's always a conflict between trying to live what David Lynch would call the art life while having to pay your bills at the same time. Jughead, day jobs suck. Well, I mean, I work for a very wonderful organization. It's a children's charity, and I like what I do. I like the cause, why I'm doing it. I'm not making widgets. I'm not trying to put more money in the pockets of greedy people. We're helping children. So if I have to have a normal job, I'm glad I'm doing that. And I've had people say, well, you need to get into the corporate world. Yeah, I'd be making 2 or 3 times more money in the corporate world. But first of all, they won't have me. Even if I wanted to sell out, I don't think the corporate world would have me. I don't think the corporate world's interested in me. But even if it was, I don't think I'd last long. I think I'd just be depressed and I wouldn't excel at it. And just that environment would just, I think it would suck the life out of me. Whatever life there is left in me. Brick, not a gamer either. We share that in common. Jughead, hello, Brick. Oh, so some people talking to each other. Yeah, Toy Adventures is great. I watched all of those. Soy is gross. No, it's not. I like soy. Meat's gross. I hate meat. Ugh. In fact, that new meat that's like very, very realistic, I tried some of that. I had to like spit it out. It was too realistic. And they did too good a job. I put it in my mouth like, this tastes too much like meat. I feel like I'm eating an animal. I couldn't take it. Some praise for Tim Lucas. Danny Raymond, do you like the monster animated merchandise Scooby-Doo? I don't buy any Scooby-Doo. I like Scooby-Doo. I know there's this whole world of modern Scooby-Doo that I'm not even aware of. Scooby-Doo for me is the 60s, maybe the 70s cartoons, and that's it. I mean, I know that he's been resurrected again and again and again, and even some very popular and well done, more recent Scooby-Doo films or shows. But no, I haven't seen any of that. I've read about it and I've been curious about it, but I haven't seen it. And no, I don't buy it. It looks cool. I'm glad it exists, but I don't buy Scooby-Doo merchandise. Basil, what is the oldest collectible I have? Well, I have some Krampus postcards. I like I run a Krampus event, a Krampus Nacht event every December where people dress up, in monster costumes as Krampus and they march down the street and all that, and they get drunk and all that. So I run in the St. Louis area the local Krampus Nacht festival, if you want to call it that. It's basically a what do they call it when you go to bars? I was going to say a bar tour. That's not, where is the word for it? You know what I mean. When you go to like one bar to the next bar to the next bar, that's basically what it is, but with costumes and some performers. We'll have like burlesque performers and fire eaters and jugglers. And so we make our way down this certain street that we do it on every year. And then at the end of the night, when we have amassed a big crowd and there are a lot of costumes, then we march back up the street. And that's like our parade with all the costume people going up, back up to the start of the route. And then we have a costume contest and then it's over. Okay, so I like Krampus. And so among the oldest things I have are some Krampus postcards. I have several Krampus vintage postcards. And some of that stuff is pretty old. Some of that can go back to like turn of the century. Not all of it. Some of it's more recent, but a lot of it is pre-World War, certainly pre-World War II, even pre-World War I. I have a skeleton that I think is Beastal. Is that how you pronounce it? Beastal. I have a skeleton from, I think it's the 1920s. And it's still in like it's like an envelope with like a little illustration on it. And it's like a jointed skeleton. What else do I have that's old? Let me see. I feel like I'm forgetting something important. What else? I guess that's enough. I mean, some of my Topstone stuff is 40s or 50s. Some of that goes back pretty far. But I don't have a lot of 1800s or so. I don't have a lot of stuff like that. I would like very much to have some like 1890s Krampus figures, like the ones you see in the postcards, where you see like children playing with these very elaborate Krampus display figures. and they're like hugging them or having tea with them. And they exist. The ones you see on eBay are fake, they're modern or recent, or they're just not very good. But I've seen some older auctions where like they had the real, legit century-old Krampus figures, and they go for like $3 or $4 grand. So the real ones. I can't have a collection of those. It'd be nice if I could have one of them. I can't afford that kind of price, and they don't come up. They don't come on eBay. They're like auctions where you actually bid, like hold up a paddle or what, or there's like an auctioneer, and mostly in Europe. But I wish I had at least one of those. Let's see here. Where am I? Matt Wright. Do you have a favorite synthesizer among the ones I have in my studio? Yes, of course, my Yamaha CS60. Yamaha CS60 is my favorite synthesizer that I own. And it's always on the blink. It always needs servicing. I get it serviced and it's okay for a month or so, then it kind of goes out of whack. So it's very temperamental, very high maintenance, but it's my favorite one. And my second favorite one is my Roland SH1000, which is one of the more kind of low-end, cheaper ones, but it's old. It's the first Roland mass-produced. It's the first mass-produced portable synthesizer that Roland ever made, from the early 70s. And I like that one a lot. I like the D50, the Roland D50. I don't play that one as much anymore, but that was my first professional synthesizer I bought in college. I already had the Yamaha DX21 in high school. That was kind of a lower end, kind of prosumer synthesizer. And I had my Casio BL1, but that was like a toy. So the first professional synthesizer I ever bought was the Roland D50 that I bought in college. And so it has a special place in my heart. Still have the one I had from back then. I still have the Korg M1 that I bought like right out of college. So I still have both of those. I still have my VL1, my little Casio tone. I sold the DX. I didn't sell the DX21. I gave it away. There was a guy on Facebook in some group bemoaning that he wanted a synthesizer but couldn't afford one. It was just like, oh, I wish I had a synthesizer. I just can't afford one. But he was in my area. I said, you meet me at this coffee shop and you will have a synthesizer. So he met me. I didn't know where he was. And I had my DX21. I said, you have a synthesizer. I hope you liked it. I warned him it wasn't the easiest thing to program. You had to kind of wrap your mind around it. And, you needed dad effects. It's not like a modern synth. It's going to have like, built-in effects and stuff. But he seemed happy to have it. So I hope he did well with it. I recently got the new Prophet 5 version 4. And I like that quite a bit. And I knew I would. Wasn't surprised. But and I started playing that. It was like I'd owned a Prophet 5 for 20 years. You just start playing it like it was very natural, because I'd had a Pro 1 or a sequential Pro 1 for many years. So I already kind of knew my way around a Prophet from that. I had a Rev 2, Prophet Rev 2, so I kind of knew my way around that. So when I got the Prophet 5, it was like I've had it as if I'd had it for years. I was just able to start playing it. Chad, you bring up great points, Mr. Castile, about the Lucio and Chaney estates. I think a lifetime deal sounds great, or just say enough and put them in public domain. That stuff's going to be in public domain. I mean, I'm sure Universal and Disney and other studios are going to do something in Congress to push this out more, but a lot of these films are approaching their 100-year anniversary. And it's not Universal, but next year, I think Nosferatu turns 100. I think Caligari's already turned 100. And you're going to start seeing like the 31 Dracula and Frankenstein obviously are going to turn 100 in 2031. So we're coming up. And then every year, more and more of these Universals are going to be hitting their 100th anniversary. And I know that that's not, copyright law isn't 100 years, but I think in our lifetime, we're going to see the studios have to reckon with some of this, particularly Disney, with some of their properties. And I'm sure they'll finagle something in Congress and they're not going to lose control of this stuff. Estates like actor likenesses is a different thing. It's not, I don't know exactly what the law says as far as whether there's a time limit on that, but I know it's not the same as copyright law. But I wish, it'd be interesting to see, like Sherlock Holmes recently, the character went into the public domain, and I know there was a guy who basically, a lawyer who liked to sue people if they did anything with Sherlock Holmes without clearing it through him. I'm sure he didn't enjoy losing control of that. But that's something that's now I can make a Sherlock Holmes. Anyone can make a Sherlock Holmes movie. There's no such thing anymore as a official Sherlock Holmes movie. It's in the public domain. Not the movies, but the character and the original stories. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with some of these movies. Finally, if the studios don't launch a big effort to extend the copyrights, what's going to happen with this stuff? Rick says, I kind of wish the Universal license was two-tiered so it came with likenesses or not. I like generic monsters, but I agree the estate should get paid. Well, Rick, and Rick, I know who you are. I don't know if you want to be outed or not, but isn't the license already two-tiered? Can't you decide you want to make a generic Frankenstein or you want to make a Karloff Frankenstein? I think you can already do that. You can already pay the additional license to get the actor likeness, or just go with a generic one. I think. I don't think you're required to use the actor likeness. I think it is like they offer it generic. Here's the generic Universal monsters. Or if you wanted to make them actor specific, then you have to pursue that additional license with additional fees and additional negotiations, I think. Rob, what happened to Rob? Yes, Sarah Karloff signed a one-time deal with Universal, but Chaney and Lucio are going, yeah. So that's what I thought, that Sarah did what we're talking about. She signed a deal that doesn't have any limit, that from now on, there's a standardized way to get the Karloff likeness if you want to go that route, instead of having to reinvent the wheel every time. Rick Baker says, I'm not the makeup artist. I didn't think you were, but I just wanted to make sure. If I was, I'm missing some serious paychecks. We sadly only share the name, but nothing else. Oh, so you're not, that is your real name. You're not just like a fan of Rick Baker. I was listening to Rick Baker's commentary on the 76 King Kong Blu-ray that came out recently from Shout Factory. So that was a very interesting commentary. I'd like to get on his Instagram and just tell him I enjoyed that commentary. Rick Baker used to comment at Universal Monster Army. He used to be involved there. Rob Tulo, Love at First Bite took out I Love the Nightlife disco song. Oh. Yeah, I know that used to be the case, that older movies didn't always have that locked up. Licensing can be tricky. Yeah, it can be a pain in the neck. Jordan, did you ever take acting or theater training? No. I mean, not seriously. I mean, in high school, I was like in a drama club for a year, I think, but no. I did go to film school at Webster University, so I did do that, and I did take music theory at Lindenwood University. Chad, what's your favorite monster movie of all time? My favorite monster movie of all time is the 33 King Kong. Favorite horror movie is Night of the Living Dead, 68. Pub Crawl. Yes, thank you. That's what I was trying to say. Bar hopping, pub crawl. Oh, Oh, Michael, what is the Beast of Blood poster behind you? So this is, it's actually a reprint. Now I probably won't be able to get it back up. Now we'll just, doesn't want to come off. We'll leave it there. This is, oh, here, wait a minute. Get off of there. This is a reproduction. This is a video store poster for the UK release of Beast of Blood called Blood Devils. Now, this was on eBay really, really cheap, and I didn't read it closely, and I thought it was like an original for super cheap. I thought, wow, what a deal. And I bought it, and afterward I realized, oh, it's a reproduction. But it was cheap enough that it didn't matter. But of course, I would like to get a real one. I mean, it will look exactly the same as this, but because it's reproduction, when you see a poster here, it's almost always some kind of reproduction. Well, I shouldn't say that. The Creature from the Black Lagoon poster was a repro. The Jaws poster was a repro. That Black Light poster I had a couple years ago, that was a vintage. That was original. I have a repro Night of the Living Dead poster I might put up. But so I'm not going to put a real vintage poster up here because of the light. I use some pretty bright lights, and I don't want them to get faded, and I don't want the cat clawing at it. So I don't display my real posters. So if you see a poster hanging here, it's probably a reproduction. In this case, it's a reproduction where I don't have the original, but I certainly want to get the original. Let's see. And I don't have an original Creature from the Black Lagoon because that's like $20,000. I don't have that. So that was a repro. Let's see here. Basil, I'm not seeing many Topstone masks on eBay. They seem to be getting harder to find. Yeah, at least the ones that I like, definitely getting harder to find. I haven't seen like a really, like a gem treasure. Wow, like a Keith Ward 50s, 60s, 70s iconic Topstone that I don't have. I haven't seen something like that in a long time. I don't know. And so I've got almost all of the iconic Topstones I would want. There's a few holes in my collection. Like I don't have a Keith Ward Ghoul. That's the biggest hole in my collection. I don't have a Keith Ward Ghoul. I've got the later resculpt ghouls, but I don't have the Keith Ward smooth skin ghoul. I really want that. That's probably my number one Topstone want. Rick says the generic is always there, but it appears that the likenesses aren't consistent and my identity isn't secret. Oh, okay. Let's see here. Yeah, so the you mean like when someone likenesses aren't consistent. So beyond like just like the quality of an individual company's sculpt, I know that one company might make a sculpt for Karloff that's not as good as what another company might do. We were showing earlier the Mezco Frankenstein, the NECA Frankenstein, the Sideshow Frankenstein. All of them are good sculpts, and they're all Karloff. But you can argue about which is better, which is worse. Universal. It'd be wonderful if to just interview someone about Universal licensing who had inside information and was able to talk. I would think anyone who had the kind of information we would want to know would be muzzled and not even if they didn't work there anymore, would probably had a non-disclosure agreement where they couldn't really talk about it. Even if someone works for toy companies, probably have agreements where they, it's just not professional to talk about this stuff publicly. But I would sure like to know some behind the scenes information about what happens with when you're trying to license Universal monsters and the actor likenesses. And, I'm sure that gets very sticky. Let's see, Jordan, because I noticed you do some theatrical hand movements to and catchphrases. What kind of catchphrases do you mean? Yeah, I do Yeah, I guess I can do hand movements. I don't really do that when I'm not on camera. Part of that, I guess part of that just me. Part of that comes from, I think, Coffin Joe and working with Majika, that he does that sort of, that that stuff. I think that's kind of in my head, and that's kind of manifests itself. Let's see. Michael, very cool poster. Brick, Brian. You love the poster? Yes, I knew that. I figured you would. The Blood Devils merchandise is something I'm just getting into. I had got the Super 8 box, but there's another version of that box I need to get. And there's posters. I don't have the quad. I need to get that. So I've overlooked the Blood Devils stuff. I need to get on that. Let's see. Undead of Night. You need Kirk Hammett money for an original creature. Yes. For an original creature poster. But when I started collecting, you could get a creature from the Black Lagoon post one sheet for like $2,000 or $3,000 or $4,000 when I started collecting. And that was a lot of money then. So, and I thought about it. Like, yeah, maybe I should get one of these. And I didn't. And then it went crazy. But there was a time where a normal person, not Kirk Hammett, who was willing to make some sacrifice, could have conceivably gotten a creature from the Black Lagoon poster. But now it's just ridiculous. And I don't have something like that happened kind of with the Jaws poster. I don't have an original Jaws poster. For years, the Jaws one sheet was like $300, maybe $500, and then it just went whoa to $1,000. Now it's getting up to $2,000. So I feel like I like Jaws a lot. I feel like I need to jump in there and bite the bullet and get a Jaws one sheet before it's $20,000. Michael, do you have any of the Blind Dead movie posters? Do I? You have a German Knives Seagulls t-shirt. Do I have a Blind Dead poster? I'm not sure. So this is what I was talking about earlier, where I don't know what I have. That's one of the reasons I don't collect posters anymore. I don't know what I've got. I pass on things thinking I've got them when I don't, and I buy things that I already have, and I forgot I had them. So I want to say I do have a Blind Dead poster, but I'm not sure. Rick, what I meant was the consistency of availability of the likeness. Oh, yeah. Yeah, that is weird that it does seem like an actor likeness is available one year and not the other year, not the next year. And it is all over the map about what likenesses are available and when. And it seems to me like where there's a will, there's a way. That it kind of like with the Green Jacket, if you really want to put out a Frankenstein with a black jacket, even before recently, you could. It's just that you had to go to bat for it. And because I talked to one person who was like higher up at a toy company who was some years ago telling me about this Green Jacket nonsense, and they refused to put out a Green Jacket, and they made a stink about it, and they got their way, and they were able to put a black jacket on their Frankenstein toy. I think likenesses can be like that. And I think not running a toy company, I think sometimes you just gotta make some noise, make some waves. I don't know, but I don't run a toy company, so I really don't know what I'm talking about. Rob, what is the largest item in your collection? Giant Yeti. Yeah, I guess that giant stuffed Yeti. That's probably the biggest thing in my collection. I mean, I can't think of what would be bigger than that. I've got that Pepsi Doritos Universal Monsters display, but I don't know. That's flat, and I don't know. The big Yeti, that's really big, bulky. So that's probably the biggest thing in my collection. Jordan, you say basement of horror and reach your hands out into the interdramatic phrase in the show. Oh, I see what you mean. I don't know where that comes from. Now, the dramatic phrase, I feel like I need to find a different way. I don't like the end thing I say at the end where the one who dies with the most toys is dead. So there's a reason I say that. It's because I'm trying to say that you can't take it with you no matter what kind of toys you've got when it's just junk. I mean, it's just, at the end of the day, it's just a bunch of plastic. And I feel like some people, their self-worth or their identity is kind of wrapped up in their collection and what they own. And it doesn't matter how great your collection is. When you're dead, you're dead. And you can't take it with you. It like doesn't really all matter in the end. So that's kind of why I say that. But I always feel a little odd when I say it. Like it doesn't quite fit, or it's kind of out of place, or it doesn't quite belong. So I'm open to suggestions for a new closing phrase. I feel like if you have a YouTube show, you've got to have some kind of catchphrase at the end. And that one served me well, but I'm looking for another one. I don't know what it would be, but I'm looking for a different one that's maybe something's just awkward about that. It doesn't come out of my mouth smoothly, and I'm looking for a new one. I have a friend who does a Dark Shadows podcast, and she's eternally looking for a catchphrase to end her podcast. And I wish I was brilliant enough to come up with the perfect catchphrase for her to end her Dark Shadows show. But I've got no brilliant ideas. I need a new one myself for my own show. Gojitron, luckily Creature's my favorite U-Monster, no actor likeness needed. Yeah, that's great. That's why a lot of people... I'm getting this message. Your connection is unstable. Please wait while we try to reconnect you. Am I still on? I'm getting this message saying it's unstable. Michael, collectibles are great, but collectors are more important. Yeah, thank you for the suggestion, but no, it doesn't quite do it. But good suggestion. I don't want it to, how do I put it? I don't want it sentimental. I don't like, although I am a sentimental person, I don't want to project sentimentality. I don't like that. I don't want to project that. I can be sentimental, but I don't really want to project sentimentality. I want to be a little more removed. That's sort of my persona. Let's see. We're coming up to 3 hours. Do you think it's time to wrap it up? What do you guys say? Is there anything else you want to talk about? Any topics? Try to see. Is there? Oh, maybe this will be a good thing to close on. So it's a little show and tell item. So that is a Coffin Joe medallion. So I think most people here probably know who Coffin Joe is, and I was in a Coffin Joe movie, The Embodiment of Evil, and in that movie, Coffin Joe, played by Jose Mujica Marins, wears a medallion. So Mujica had multiples of this medallion made with the intent that he would maybe give them away to friends or use them as promotional items or maybe contest prizes or something. So he had a set of like, I don't know, like a dozen with black color inside of it. And then like a dozen that was just metallic with no black. And like during the premiere, I saw at least one other person that had one of those. I said, oh, where can I get that? At that time, I don't know what they were doing with them, but they weren't just giving them out. But so he passed away, and his family, last year he passed away, and his family sold some things, and they sold the rest of these medallions. I don't know if they still have any or not. They were down just a few, and so I bought one. So this is a metal medallion. It's exactly what he wore in the movie. It's from this. It's part of the series of medallions they made for the movie. This is one of them. It's not screen used, but it's made by the same person who made the rest of them, made the same way, from the same mold and all that. And I bought one of these, and if they still have one, I might buy one without the black. But I think in the movie, the ones he wore had the black in it. I know at the premiere, the ones I saw had the black. But this has got symbols from different religions and ideologies to get across the idea that Coffin Joe is like neutral. At least in his mind, he's not good or evil. He's neutral. So that's the idea there. And it has a little scroll. It's like a certificate of authenticity. I have never opened it, so I don't know what it says in there. So this is pretty cool. I like this, and one of these days I might put it on a chain. And certainly, if I dress up as Coffin Joe again, I'll use this. And I mean, already it kind of looks like it belongs there, doesn't it? So if I ever put on my hat, my cape, and all that, I'll put a chain on that and wear that. So that was a cool thing that in recent months I got. That came from Brazil, obviously. It came from Mujica's family. Okay, so anything else? I think maybe it's time to wrap it up. What do you guys say? It's 2:59, 2 hours, 59 minutes. This is a last call. If anyone wants to discuss anything else. Any other questions? Okay. I think it's time to say goodnight. So thank you, everyone, for being here. We had approximately 40 people participate. I'm looking at the count. It's like 39, 42, it like fluctuates, but it's around 40 people. So that's a pretty good turnout. I appreciate everyone who turned out, everyone who asked questions, or even if you didn't ask questions and you just watched, that's great too. I appreciate everyone who was here tonight. Thank you very much. I'm going to end this stream, and we'll see. Maybe we'll do this again sometime. I think this went pretty well. And, I might invest in some better technology to make this a little smoother. But I think it went pretty well. Oh, wait a minute. Okay, so I think this will be our last question. Funny Waters Laugh Out Loud says, what's your favorite toy? Okay, I think no surprise in anyone. the Ahai Azrac Henway International Creature from the Black Lagoon. That's my favorite toy. That's my childhood one. Had it since I was a little kid. That's my favorite toy. That's an easy question to answer. That really is the thing that got me into toy collecting, was the fact that I still had that toy, and that kind of fascinated me. And I thought, I want to get a carded version of this. I'm not realizing how hard it was to get that, but that kind of started me on a journey of collecting vintage toys. So that's my favorite toy. All right. Thanks, everyone. I think that's it. Thank you very much. Good night. I'll say my little catchphrase, then we'll end it. The one who dies with the most toys is dead. Good night.